At 81, Diana Ross, Motown royalty and Michael Jackson's lifelong mentor, breaks a decades-long silence. In a revealing new interview, she dispels long-standing rumors about their relationship, describing Jackson as both like a brother and a soul, rather than a romantic partner. With poignant anecdotes and heartfelt clarity, she sets the record straight. Their bond was rooted in unconditional love, guidance, and mutual respect. Ross's words arrive as Jackson's legacy is being reshaped by a forthcoming biopic, promising to shift public perception not with sensational headlines, but with the measured honesty of a cherished friend. Diana Ross's early connection with Michael Jackson began in the late 1960s, during the golden era of Motown. At the time, Ross was already a rising superstar with the Supremes, while Michael was just a precocious 10-year-old fronting the Jackson 5. Their worlds collided when Motown founder Berry Gordy introduced the Jackson brothers to Ross, believing she could help guide their transition into the spotlight. She did more than that. Diana personally introduced the Jackson 5 to mainstream America during a nationally televised performance on The Ed Sullivan Show, a symbolic and literal passing of the torch. Offstage, she opened her home to the young Jacksons, especially Michael, who grew to see her as more than just a mentor. For Michael, Diana was a steady presence in a world that quickly became chaotic. He often referred to her as a second mother, and their emotional bond deepened beyond professional ties. As he began maturing artistically, Michael's admiration for Ross was boundless. He studied her stage presence, her charisma, and her work ethic. Despite constant tabloid speculation about a romantic relationship between the two, those closest to them insisted it was always rooted in maternal love, emotional support, and mutual respect. Diana herself played a huge role in shaping Michael's public image during those early years, and Michael never forgot it. When he crafted his will decades later, he named Diana Ross as a guardian of his children should his mother be unable to care for them, a profound gesture of lifelong trust. Their connection, forged during Michael's most formative years, became one of the most enduring and misunderstood relationships in entertainment history. It was in those early moments, far from the glare of global fame, that their unshakable bond was built. With Diana Ross as both protector and spiritual guide, Michael J.C. Casonats, 81, Diana Ross has chosen to speak with honesty and vulnerability about her relationship with Michael Jackson, breaking a silence that lasted for decades. In a recent interview that has taken the world by surprise, Ross clarified the nature of her connection with the king of pop, not as a romantic partner, but as a maternal figure, a mentor, and above all, a lifelong friend. She said, "People misunderstood us. I loved Michael deeply, but it wasn't romantic. I was his guide, his protector." These few words were enough to dismantle years of rumors and sensational headlines that painted their bond in misleading shades. For Diana, this was not just about setting the record straight. It was about honoring the real man behind the myth, a sensitive, gifted, and emotionally complex person she had known since his teenage years. Ross and Jackson's bond dates back to the late 1960s, when Berry Gordy introduced the Jackson 5 to the Motown world, and Diana was tasked with ushering them into the public eye. She introduced them on national television and even welcomed Michael into her own home, becoming a central figure in his formative years. Over the decades, that connection only deepened. Ross shared intimate moments from their time together, how Michael would call her late at night seeking advice, how he leaned on her emotionally during moments of overwhelming fame, and how she worried about his deep loneliness. She admitted he hated being alone, yet fame isolated him more than anyone could imagine. Her memories reveal a young man struggling under the weight of global stardom, someone who needed emotional shelter more than applause. Despite this closeness, Diana Ross always maintained that their bond was not romantic. Over the years, tabloids have speculated endlessly, some claiming Michael was infatuated with her, others even suggesting that she inspired songs like Dirty Diana. But those closest to the two artists have long denied such claims, and now Diana herself has firmly put those stories to rest. She described their relationship as deeply spiritual, emphasizing that they understood one another in ways words often failed to explain. That depth of trust became even more evident when Michael named Ross as the secondary guardian of his children in his will, a gesture that spoke volumes about the level of respect and love he had for her. Ross also touched on Michael's perspective, recounting the way he often referred to her in different but always affectionate terms: a sister, a mother, a muse. Michael credited Diana with helping him launch his solo career and giving him the confidence to stand apart, even from his famous brothers. She noted how proud she was to watch him evolve artistically, yet how concerned she remained about his mental and emotional well-being as fame grew more intense. Her words offered a glimpse into a side of Michael that fans rarely saw, a gentle, brilliant soul burdened by the pressures of a spotlight he could never escape. This interview has arrived at a culturally significant moment, with an upcoming biopic about Jackson's life scheduled for release. Ross's revelations add depth and humanity to a narrative often dominated by controversy. She acknowledged that it was time the world saw Michael not just as a headline, but as a human being with fears, dreams, and a desperate need for genuine connection. The public's response to Ross's honesty has been overwhelmingly supportive. Fans flooded social media with messages of appreciation. One user wrote, "Diana, Ross was his rock. This interview is everything." Another said, "We always knew their bond was special." Finally, the truth. Ross's perspective also offered a counterpoint to the allegations that have haunted Jackson's legacy, particularly following the release of Leaving Neverland in 2019. Ross publicly defended Michael, tweeting, "I believe and trust that Michael Jackson was and is a magnificent, incredible force. Stop in the name of love." Her continued defense doesn't come across as blind loyalty, but as someone who saw the man up close, his strengths, his struggles, and the humanity few others truly witnessed. Her message at 81 carries more than just nostalgia, it carries wisdom. As time passes and memories fade, her voice becomes a powerful reminder that history must be told with nuance. She doesn't excuse everything, but she invites understanding. Diana Ross doesn't try to rewrite Michael Jackson's story, she simply offers her truth, one built on decades of experience and unshakable emotional ties. Her intention is clear, to remind the world that Michael was more than just an entertainer. He was a soul in search of peace, someone who found rare sanctuary in her presence. In the final moments of her interview, Diana Ross said something that encapsulated their entire relationship. "Michael wasn't just a star, he was a soul, and I'll love him forever." In that sentence lies a powerful truth, not about romance or gossip, but about spiritual connection, trust, and a kind of love that defies categories. At a time when so much about Michael Jackson's legacy remains contested, Diana Ross has added something sacred to the conversation: authenticity. Through her words, the world is invited to see not just the king of pop, but the boy who once needed a hand to hold and found one in hers. At 81, Diana Ross has finally broken her long-held silence about her deeply personal relationship with Michael Jackson. For decades, fans, journalists, and gossip columns speculated about the nature of their connection. Was it romantic, platonic, maternal, or something else entirely? With clarity and grace, Ross now lays those questions to rest. In a recent Rare interview, she opened up with emotional honesty, describing Michael not as a lover or a mystery, but as a part of her heart, someone she helped raise, guide, and protect. "People always wanted to turn it into something it wasn't," she said. "But Michael was like my child, my little brother, my spiritual shadow." Her voice was not defensive, but tired of the noise, ready to replace decades of rumor with truth grounded in love. Their story began in the golden days of Motown, when Michael was just 10 years old and Ross was already an established superstar. Berry Gordy, Motown's founder, introduced the young Jackson 5 to Diana. With a clear mission, he believed her influence and spotlight could help launch the boys into national stardom. She did exactly that, introducing them on The Ed Sullivan Show in 1969 and giving Michael a stage both figuratively and literally. What most people didn't see was what happened off-stage. Diana took Michael into her home. He spent time with her, watched her rehearse, asked her questions, and absorbed every part of her discipline, elegance, and charisma. For Michael, who often felt alienated even within his family, Ross became a symbol of nurturing and consistency. He was fascinated by her grace, and over time it evolved into a deep emotional attachment that lasted their entire lives. As Michael matured and his fame skyrocketed into something no child could ever fully handle, Ross remained his emotional anchor. She recalled nights when he would call her in tears, overwhelmed by pressure, confusion, or loneliness. "He trusted me," she said, "not just with advice but with his fears." She described him as someone with a soft solar child, who never really had a childhood. Fame made him adored and isolated in equal measure. Diana could see the toll it was taking long before the world did. She never spoke to tabloids, never added to the circus. Instead, she quietly remained in his orbit, checking in, offering sanctuary, and standing up for him when few others dared to. Throughout the years, rumors about the nature of their relationship only intensified. Some suggested they had been romantically involved, especially when Michael named her in his will as a backup guardian to his children, or when he spoke of her with admiration that bordered on infatuation. Others claimed songs like Dirty Diana were inspired by her. Ross has now finally addressed those whispers with both firmness and affection. "Michael never crossed that line with me," she stated. "There was love between us, yes, but not the kind people tried to turn it into. Ours was something deeper, something the tabloids couldn't understand." Her choice of words was deliberate, not rejection, not denial, but a declaration of a connection rooted in soul rather than romance. In recounting their shared history, Ross also painted a portrait of Michael that counters the narrative often portrayed in the media. She spoke of a kind, gentle spirit, intensely shy, brilliant, and burdened by fame from a very young age. "He wasn't just a performer," she said, "he was a seeker, always looking for truth, for purity, for peace." Her description was far removed from the controversy-stained image that emerged in the later years of his life. For Ross, those scandals, true or not, never defined who Michael was to her. Even when the Leaving Neverland documentary reignited debate and condemnation, Diana Ross chose a path few others did. She defended him. In a 2019 tweet, she wrote, "I believe and trust that Michael Jackson was and is a magnificent, incredible force stop in the name of love." That unwavering loyalty, she now says, came not from denial but from memory, the memory of a boy who once stands barefoot in her living room, eyes wide with curiosity and heart full of dreams. As Ross tells it, the world only knew a version of Michael. The real Michael, the one she knew, was vulnerable, wounded, and filled with contradictions, both confident and insecure, powerful and childlike. He was someone who longed for normalcy yet couldn't escape his legend. Diana believes that the tragedy of Michael Jackson wasn't just in how he died, but in how little people truly understood him while he lived. That, perhaps, is why she has finally decided to speak now. At this stage of her life, with nothing left to prove or protect, she wants the world to remember Michael not as a myth, but as a man. A complex, talented, tormented man who found rare peace in their bond. Her final words in the interview were simple, yet profound. Michael wasn't just a star, he was a soul. I'll love him forever. That one sentence captures everything: years of shared memories, private conversations, pain, protection, and unconditional love. In telling the truth now, Diana Ross isn't rewriting history. She's restoring it. She's lifting the veil that fame, gossip, and time had dropped over their relationship. And in doing so, she offers something no headline ever could: healing. For herself, for Michael's legacy, and for the millions who still wonder who he really was behind the glittering glove.